Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, we're going to break down a bluesy electric lead that's played with piano. So it's just guitar and piano. And the lead has a little bit of a B.B. King influence. There's some jazzy chords thrown in there. And we'll break down everything that I played in the intro note for note. But more importantly, I want you to understand where these notes come from so that you can start to improvise in this style. And that's really my goal for you in this lesson, is to put everything in context so that if you hear another instrument playing and you grab your guitar, you can play along with them and have a conversation musically. So I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll take a look at part one, the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half, as well as download the tablature and the MP3 jam track, which has that piano part, you're going to want to go to ActiveMelody.com, go to the lessons page, and do a search for EP215. That's the lesson number for this lesson. So let's go ahead and break down part one. Alright, let's talk through tone settings. I'll be very brief. Now I'm using two pedals. One is a boost pedal, and I have the boost at about 2 out of 10. And that's just to give a little extra punch to the signal. And then I'm going out of that and into a delay pedal. And you can hear the slap back delay. That just gives you more of a vintage sound. It fattens up your tone a little bit. And so that's what I'm using. It's just the two pedals, and then I'm going into the amp. I do have the reverb on the amp at maybe 3 out of 10. Now if you don't have any pedals, don't go out and buy them. You don't need to have any pedals for this. You can plug straight into your amp and go clean channel and still have an awesome sound. But I just wanted to mention that because I always get emails on it. Okay, so the song is in the key of C. And so the first thing I do is I set up a home bass. I always do that if I'm going to play lead. And my home bass is pretty much always the same thing. And what I end up doing is I find the major bar chord for the key of the song that we're in. So if we're playing in the key of C, I find this C major bar chord. Now these three fingers are making the E chord shape, and I'm barring here on the 8th fret. So by the E chord shape, I mean E chord shape down in first position. If we slide all that all the way up here and we bar on the 8th fret, we end up with C. This becomes our home bass. The 8th fret becomes kind of your root fret. Now an interesting thing happens here, and I actually cover this in another lesson. I'll call that out in a minute, but you have your minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. There's 5 patterns, but that's pattern 1 for the key of C. And then you've got your major pentatonic scale, pattern 2, right in the middle of pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale. Now you might want to check out EP215. I put together a whole lesson on mixing the major and minor pentatonic scale. There's charts with some visuals and to really help you understand it, but that's what is happening here. And so when I play that first lick, I started in the major pentatonic. That sounds pretty major, pretty happy. But then when I hit this note, I'm going into the minor, which gives it more of a bluesy feel. And so that's just sort of why these notes work and what's helping define that. So let's look at the specific notes. I'm going to take my middle finger and slide up to the 9th fret 3rd string. Index finger goes down to the 8th fret 2nd string. And look at those notes, by the way. And think of that C major bar chord. They're just in the top part of that bar chord, which actually is the C chord. It's just a C triad. So that, I mean, if that helps you visualize this, you know, anything you can do to help connect the dots, always connect it back to a chord shape though. That way you won't get lost. Okay, so after that, then I come to the 10th fret 2nd string and I do a half bend and give it a little vibrato when I bend it. Now a half bend means you go up 1 fret from where you start. So if we're starting there, we're going to go to this note. Now if I'd done a full bend, you're going 2 notes, 2 frets above. But just remember to do a half bend. It takes a little control. Now the reason that sounds bluesy is because we're now in the minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1 for the key of C. Remember, those are your notes, so you're bending into that minor pentatonic scale, and it shifts the sound into that more bluesy, kind of sad feel. Okay, so those are the first 3 notes. Now after that we're going to play the same 3 notes, we're just going to play them backwards. So there's that bend, we're going to come down and play 10th fret 2nd string without the bend, and then we're going to play the 8th fret 2nd string. And then watch this, really cool little blues lick there. So that's borrowing the first 3 strings on the 10th fret. We're going to play strings 2 and 3. Then we're going to borrow the first 3 strings on the 8th fret, just playing strings 2 and 3. But as soon as you hit it, you do a hammer-on to the 9th fret 3rd string to complete that chord. It's just the C chord. I always refer to that as build a chord. It's like you're starting, but you haven't finished the chord. And then by adding that little hammer on there, you're building the rest of the chord. Okay, so from the beginning, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the first lick. And then the next thing that I played were these 3 chords that go, and that's really just a C, a B, and then a B flat. Now let me show you this chord shape, and then I'll show you how you can use this chord going forward, this little run here. And you can always use this when you're playing blues. It'll make it easy for you. But let's look at what's happening here. These 3 fingers are making the D7 chord shape. If you know how to make a D7 down in first position, you're just going to make them here so that your pinky and your ring finger are on the 10th fret, strings 2 and 4. Middle finger is on the 9th fret, string 3. Then your index finger goes down on the 8th fret, string 1. So it's pretty easy to make when you think about making that D7 shape. That's how I've always thought of that chord. So we're just going to take that chord shape and go, just slide it down. It goes down 1 fret and then it goes down another fret, down to a B flat. So if you look at that C major bar chord, and then you look at the C6 chord, and where that lives within that major bar chord, so in other words, the bar there is on the 8th fret when I'm barring that chord, well that happens to be where my index finger goes down when I make the C6 chord. And you can always walk that down 2 frets. That works every time. So if we're playing in the key of A, for example, there's your A, so your A6 would be here, so you could play. So just remember that if you're playing a slow blues and you want some really nice filler, some chord filler, you can always go to that 6th sound and it gives it kind of a more sophisticated, more jazzy feel. Okay, so let's back up from the beginning. Now we're going to play the same kind of deal, but we're going to play it over the 4 chord. So in this case, it's going to be an F. And we're going to play. It's another half bend, but this time we're going to slide our ring finger up to the 10th fret 2nd string, index finger on the 8th fret 1st string, and then ring finger on the 10th fret 1st string, doing another half bend. And we're going to back it down now. We're going to play the bend, the note without the bend on the 10th fret 1st string, 8th fret 1st string, 10th fret 2nd string, down to the 8th fret 2nd string. Now, I'm staying, even though the song switched to a 4 chord, in my mind, I'm just staying in the key of C. So no matter what the chord is, whether it be the C chord, the F chord, or the G chord, which is coming up, I'm not thinking of playing the chord changes in this. I'm just staying in the key. So that makes it easier. So in essence, all I'm doing is I'm still in major pentatonic scale pattern 2, doing the half bend up to pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale for the key of C. I hope that makes sense. So I'm not overcomplicating it. I'm just staying in the key of C. So, and then for the chord part, I went the exact same 6 chords. I just walked it up instead of walking it down. And I threw that in there just to show you that you can go either way. So if you wanted to build up to the 6th chord of the key of the song that you're in, you can do it that way as well. Really cool effect, and it's pretty simple to do. Now, then I came here for the 5 chord, which is a G. I went, and that's easy to do. So it's just index finger is on the 8th fret 2nd string, middle finger is on the 9th fret 3rd string. We're playing a harmonized 3rd there. Now look at what that is. It's just 2 notes out of the C major bar chord. These 2 notes, or you could think of it as 2 notes out of the C major pentatonic scale pattern 2. And you can slide into those as many times as you want to get, you know, more of a vocal effect. So then I slide those down 2 frets. And what I'm doing here by sliding it down 2 frets, now I've just got this memorized through the years of playing harmonies. I just know that if we're going to the 5 chord, I can always just slide this down from the 5 and then go down 2 more to go to the 4 and then back. So just remember that on a sort of at that point in a blues, when you're coming up on the 5 chord, that'll always work. But the other way to think about it is that's a G7 chord. You know, that bluesy sound, that 7 chord. There's your 7 note in the chord. So that's what I'm walking down to. Now it's harmonized, but okay, so that's how that's played. And then we're going to go down 2 more frets. So that would be your F7. And then I went and just brought it back to the C chord. So that's your C chord right there, and I'm just playing 2 notes out of the chord. It's that same harmonized third feel though. And then to get back, I went, and that is a technique that I've just memorized over the years, and this will be a great takeaway. If you don't learn anything else, remember this. When you're playing this chord shape, this is the A chord shape, where we're barring here on, in this case, this would be the 5th fret. So think of an A chord, just slide everything up, right? So if you think of this as a fence, so you've got this side of the fence and then this side of the fence, and where my pinky is the fence, I can play those 2 notes that I was just playing, and then I can take these 2 fingers and put them in this position so that my middle finger is now on the 6th fret 2nd string, my ring finger is on the 7th fret 3rd string, and look at this. You can slide that up 2 frets or go back down and go back to where you started. So that's a great little harmonized lead thing that you can work in. And you can keep going with it if you want to, but just look at where it is in reference to the chord shape. So if you're playing something and there happens to be a D chord, you're not just playing a D chord down here. Now you can go, you can start working in some little fills like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there and work that into this lesson because it's something I use all the time and it's really easy to do. There's not like a lot of technique involved in it. It's just visualizing the chord shape and then remembering, oh yeah, I've got this little thing that I can always do. Okay, let's take it back from the beginning. 2, 3, 4. Two, 3, 4. Now we're going to go back. Okay, here it is. Harmonized thirds. There's your C chord. And there's that little trick I just showed you. And then we go to the 5 chord. And all I'm playing there is a G7 chord, but I'm playing it here. So there's that little D7 chord shape that I showed you, and I've got my index, but now my pinky and my ring finger are on the 10th fret strings 3 and 5. Index finger goes down on the 8th fret 2nd string. And when I played it, I played 5, and then I used my ring finger to play 2, 3, 2, 3. So it goes like this. Now you don't have to use your ring finger for that. You could use your pick. I just have more control and I find it easier to use hybrid picking there. So that's really all we're going to go through for part 1. And I mean it's simple, but there's a lot of big takeaways, and I hope that even if you just grab one of them and you can start using that in your playing, that's massive progress. And you won't forget it. You'll keep it forever. So let's go back and play through it one more time. I'll play through it slowly and you can have this as a final reference. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.